Okay, so for my reading strategy, I picked the book First Big Book of the Ocean. I actually did find a copy of this at my local library, but I decided to show you the Amazon version. That way you get a chance to look at it with me. So I think that this book is great because it is nonfiction, and it's one of those books since it's for it would be for kindergarten or first grade, especially if you want them to be able to follow along. I would use first grade. Um, so the great thing about this book, before I kind of get into it, is that it goes through animal by animal, which is really nice. And so I think that my reading strategy in particular would be great to would be great for us to use like as like in a unit with the different animals, and the strategy that I'm using is a great way to build on that knowledge, and it's a great way for me to assess the students. All right, so I'll go ahead and read a little bit of it. I think that I would start right away with my reading strategy. This book is also great because, as you can see, it tells you how to use the book, and it's filled with nonfiction type features so that the students can get some practice with that, but kind of in a fun, more colorful way. All right, so we're going to start with the first chapter, and then we're going to start with otters. Okay, and I'm going to read a little bit of this. So, with otters, sea otter. A sea otter uses rocks to break open shellfish to eat. Floating on its back, a sea otter balances a rock on its chest, then it takes a clam it caught and hits it on the rock. The clamshell breaks open, time to eat. And then I'm going to read the caption that says, Baby sea otters are born in the water. The otter gobbles up the clam that lives inside the shell. To find clams and other shellfish to eat, the sea otter dives down into the ocean. It can hold its breath for a few minutes, then it pops back up to breathe and eat. The sea otter grooms its fur to keep it clean. Clean fur helps keep the otter warm. Kelp is the biggest seaweed in the ocean. Kelp grows into a seaweed forest in some parts of the ocean. Sea otters have webbed hind or back feet. Webbed feet help others swim. Sea otters spend most of their time in the ocean. They sleep floating on the water. Sometimes they gather in large groups. They often use kelp to hold themselves in one spot as the ocean swirls around them. Have you ever eaten shellfish such as clams, oysters, scallops, or crabs? Okay, so that's kind of the portion that I would read. I know that wasn't long, but just because of how intensive it is and how there are so many other things to look at, I would say I would probably keep for that. Um, if we had a lot of time, I would possibly do two animals or two sections at once. But for my particular strategy, I would use let me pull it up here for a second, the KWL card, and that is not it. Hold on one second. I would use a KWL chart just because I found that this would be the best thing to use. And what it is really is we've used it actually in the college level is K, what I know, W, what I wonder, and L, what I learned. And the great thing about this is that using the KWL method is a great way to build on the student's prior knowledge. I would have the students explain what they already know about otters, so that would fill out in the K chart, and that would be what we would do before we even started to read. So that way, the students could build on their prior knowledge and give them interest in what they're about to read. Um, and it could be even something where we have a classroom discussion before, and then they could fill it out. I would then explain to them as we read the text to pay attention to what you were learning and try to remember at least one thing, and that would be for the W, or that would be for the that would be for the L, what I learned, and so that would be for the students to uh, give them a purpose and to learn what they're thinking. And then for the W, what I wonder, that just kind of gives the students another purpose for reading, and it sees what some questions that they would want to have answered. And sometimes those questions are going to get answered, and sometimes they're not, and that's okay too. For like the W part, it would be a great way to expand on that. Um, they will then record the information that they have learned, and then they would have a discussion about it later. So I'm using this strategy because it's a great way to expand on a text and give a purpose for reading. With the KWL chart, students can have an introduction to the topic. It gives them a purpose while they're reading and allows me to pursue the student interests with the W section. With this many different animals, it is a great way for students to organize their thoughts for the different animals because this book can get confusing because there are so many different animals. And with these KWL charts, it's a great way to organize them. You see in the top left here, it has the topic part, so you can just write the animal. And that would be a great way for not only the students to organize things, but for myself to organize things. The best thing that I like is because not only is it a great strategy for them to organize their learning, but it's also a great way for me to conduct an easy assessment. It kind of kills two birds with one stone because I can see if they're really digging into the text and learning what they're supposed to be learning, or if they're just completely lost and we need to backtrack a bit. So that's kind of a great thing. So obviously, you've heard of KWL charts, we all have, um, but there is research based. There is research that backs the use of a KWL chart. So just in some quick research that I did, I pulled something from Read, Write, Think, and it was talking about how the source, it helped me to realize that this strategy can be used in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be just in elementary school. I think we're a great example of that because we use it in college. It could be used in middle school and high school. So according to Read, Write, Think, with the older students, this could even be seen as preparing for a topic. So the students could do their own research and then we could then read on it or discuss it in class. So this could be used for a research project of our own at the middle school, high school, or even the elementary part if you used it correctly. So this is really just a versatile strategy. So another, I took it more content specific with facinghistory.org, and that was talking about, it was taking it through the historical angle. It also discusses how it is not only a great strategy, but can be used as an assessment for your classroom, like I mentioned earlier. There is no better way to know if a student comprehends the text or not. So that it's just something quick, but it's also effective to use in your classroom, and you could apply that to obviously like history, science, even just even a fiction or a nonfiction book. So that's a great tool as well. And then if I was personally, if I was going to use this in my classroom and I wanted to take it to the next level, I would use the last source that I found, which was the NEA. It really breaks down the process and even gives you ways to expand the project as well. I would more than likely use that website for the future because it just breaks it down, tells you questions to use. I personally would probably use this right away with this book, and we would go through this book chunks at a time. But I would do the KWL first as a group, just the first couple of times. That way, students can learn what it's like, and we'll do it as a group. But I'll use their thoughts while we write it out as a group. But then I'll start to give it out on an individual level. All right. Thank you.